All right, let's go ahead and call this meeting of the Isani City Council to order, and if we can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Doing roll call, we have everyone present except for Councilman Heeman, who is away with family and stuff. His daughter is visiting from Alaska, so that's nice to see her. He gets to meet his, I think his grandson or granddaughter, so 7 months old and has never seen her, so got a busy schedule with that stuff. So, all right, so we'll move right on to our goal-setting work session topics, and for D1, just kind of covering the purpose of this meeting. And Josie, I imagine I'll let you take it from here for this section, huh?
Sure, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So it has been the City Council's practice to have an annual goal-setting session. This allows all of you to come together and come up with plans, ideas, not just for this year, with what's budgeted, but for future years coming up forward. So the kind of the bigger picture, the grander scheme of what you'd like staff to focus on and what you'd like us to plan for as we move forward here. The goal of today is to come up and have discussions on some top items that you may have for 2024 and future years, and to balance those to see what's possible for staff to take on, possibly what we already have in the works or things that are new. Annually, the City Council also adopts the comprehensive budget to provide for the regular ongoing operations and investments in the city's capital assets and infrastructure, and funding for new projects and services. As we go through the packet this evening, I have some of our old plans that we have into place, our new plans that are ongoing, and then just a list of previous goal-setting items that have been discussed. The one that I have this evening will be one from staff, and then Council and Mayor yourself are allowed to add items this evening for discussion.
Okay. So if we want to, I don't know if we need to necessarily go through these item by item at all, but any questions on, I guess, D2? Which is just kind of basically a summary of ongoing sort of plans and things from the past and kind of where we're at with those, but if I'm not hearing any questions on that, I'll move on to D3, which is goals and progress summary from 2023.
I had a question on, if you look at recession planning and Facebook group survey stuff, it says no action was done. Was there any reason for either of those, or it just wasn't a priority necessarily?
The staff just wasn't provided with what to move with forward. I know that it was discussed at objectives, but not an actual plan was put into place for staff to initiate.
Okay. I guess I would like to see those carried on this year for us, maybe if we have time again. Otherwise, I don't have any other questions on that one. I do still need to look into resident leaf pickup. I know we had talked about maybe figuring out a way to outfit a plow truck with a leaf picker upper at a very low cost compared to the, what was it, $275,000 they wanted for that truck. I was hoping to maybe figure something out. I haven't had a chance to do that yet. I've had a pretty rough year, but I think we could keep that on there too, and hopefully I can come up with something that's, you know, it might not be perfect, but it'll be a good good amenity for the residents at a low cost.
Yeah, and that was one that I've been talking about for years. They do it over at North Branch, and you know, I think it's a nice service. I mean, it's easy for people. They just blow their leaves to the end of the road. But I know that when we've talked about it before, just the cost never was something that was doable, really. I think even a used truck was that price, I think, right? It was the $275, yeah.
But I think, I mean, we have the plow trucks, and they sit there during the summer, relatively unused. So I think that would be you know, if we could outfit one for $20,000 or $30,000, making some sort of homemade contraption or something, I would.
I know you had kind of mentioned an
Yeah.
idea before,
I
of sort
think-
of like a vacuum trailer, sort of, or something like
No,
that, or
you
or
put
was
like,
that,
sort of like if you think of like a receiver hitch on the back of a truck, you can put all sorts of attachment in it, right? Put like a receiver hitch on the side of the plow truck, so that way you can slide in some sort of like sucker device that cuts them up and then just throws them right back into the back of the plow truck. You don't even need a trailer then. So, you know, you could fit quite a few leaves in the back of a plow truck. So I'm sure I could get something together for that. I just haven't had a chance. So I think that would be a reasonable goal to maybe look into that further.
Okay.
We can add it this evening for further discussion, or what we could do is plan for mid-year to bring it up in June, and then July, we're starting budget discussions to see
Okay.
if that's something that we want to incorporate to 2025 budget or future budgets.
You know, maybe one of the things that we could do is, you know, once we kind of have a good list of goals here this year, I know the last council meeting, we talked about, you know, having on our committee of the whole meetings, having a new business and old business, so that we can kind of, because we've got a lot of projects that are ongoing still, and so, you know, maybe we want to have in those agendas, you know, just a list of goal-setting items that, you know, I mean, they may not be on the agenda for that night, but they're at least listed there where we can see them, and we're at least thinking about them on a somewhat regular basis, maybe. Something to think about there, and I think that might be a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So, any other questions on D3 there?
I think it's, I think the dynamic sign is something that we should really
Sure.
still keep looking.
And I think, Josie, that was one of the things you wanted to talk about more tonight, right? So,
Yes.
I think that's a huge asset. I mean, you look at cities that are smaller than ours, they have huge dynamic signs. And I think it's good information that people can pick up on that. I think, you know, Finance Director Becker is even, you know, we incorporate the liquor store sales or things that going on in the liquor store where they could pick up a good portion of that for that sign. It's just finding a location for it is the biggest thing. I noticed that church that bought that lot, I see that's for sale now. They decided to sell it now, or what?
Yes, we just had a meeting with them a couple weeks ago, just discussing their plans for development, and that's one of their goals is to develop that side of that parcel for commercial. So they're just listing it. They haven't platted it or anything like that, but just seeing.
So it's very possible we could still work out something with them, kind of like we had discussed earlier with the corner.
She'll have an update
Yes.
on that
Yeah.
when we get
yeah,
to
and I think we've
that
got some other
item.
options too
Yep.
that have kind of come up here now too, so. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'm not in favor of is spending a fortune on it, you know, I mean, I think there was, we had talked about 2 or 3 years ago that we had like $150,000 budgeted for it, and.
That was still at the beginning of this year. That was still in the budget talks.
No,
We
I
got
don't
rid of
remember,
it.
was that last year that we took that out, Mike? And, yeah, and then we left the 10,000 for, so that was one of the things that, you know, I think if we can get it done for a reasonable price, then I don't have a problem with it, but I just don't wanna spend.
Not 150.
Those
Yeah.
costs have gone up, so.
Yeah, I don't wanna spend a fortune on it, but I think it would be nice to have, and the liquor store, I mean, obviously, the business that they do, they could certainly justify putting a sign up, so that would be a little more visible, but you're thinking more of like a community.
Well, it's
Board more
what
than
a
the
lot
liquor
of them
store
are.
sign.
I mean, they put on their city council meetings in, you know, public, you know, or,
Like Ham Lakes.
park meetings and, you know, or even, you could even, you know, if we have to enforce the water ban like we did this year, that could go on there as a blurb. I mean, they just roll through it. It's not like they just gotta sit up there and blink 24 hours a day. I mean, they can just roll through it. I mean, you even look at billboards. They have that billboard set up that way where they rotate ads through. So sometimes I wish they'd stick on a little longer, because I'm like, what the heck did that say? It just rolls through so quick that it doesn't give you enough time to really read it, but, you know, that's how they pay for them.
Does anybody have any idea what a digital billboard costs like that size? Would that be like the $150,000 or what? I never really understood what a $150,000 dynamic sign meant.
Should we get through the rest of the items, make sure there's
Yeah.
no questions before we get into the topics? Because I believe
Okay.
Ms. Hillesheim does have more information for.
That sounds
commercial.
good, yeah, let's do that. So any other questions on D3 there?
At some point, I would like to know where Travis is on and moving in, the new PD. You wanna do that now, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
You should get something here in Josie's next admin updates. We just discussed it today, what's gonna go in there, but, we were kinda waiting on our phone system, which will be in on the 8th on Monday. So, we'll say we'll be in by the end of the month fully.
Okay.
It'll be before that, but that's the date that I will
Yeah, I know.
publicly
Last time
say.
you and I talked about it too, was the phone system was kind of was
The
a
8th,
delay
they'll be
there.
here the 8th.
Yeah.
Hopefully it all works, so that was kind of the holdup, was a piece of that, so.
Sure.
End of the month will be we'll just say we'll be in by the end of the month, but it'll be before that.
Awesome.
And that's not gonna create a problem with the sale of the property? Okay.
I think that's actually sooner than the
Yeah,
date
it's like
on
2
that.
years sooner.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes,
couldn't-
it is.
I couldn't remember.
Significantly ahead of schedule.
Oh, good.
So
Good.
we could put some illuminated Sandy lights in there for a while.
Yeah, right? Yeah, we talked about that earlier this year. Yeah.
All right. Anything else on D3 there? All right, so we'll move on to D4. It's just kind of a list of the past goal-setting lists and anything that you guys wanted to discuss on those items.
Well, as long as I've been on this council, I've always been pushing for that sidewalk on Whiskey. And this Wood knows that for a long time, and you've heard it the years that you've been on council.
Yeah.
I think it's huge. You don't realize the amount of kids that walk down 5. Even though there's a sidewalk on the one side, but they're walking on the other side of the road. I still, sidewalks to me is a huge, huge public safety issue. And then that goes in with, I've always been First Street infill lights, lighting more corridors so people actually go out and enjoy those things. So, all of that goes in hand. Yeah, that's kind of the sidewalk has always been, as long as I've been on here for 14 years, I've always pushed for that. You do have on here Bluebird Park amenities. One thing I, thought of now, and I totally understand why the splash pad is ex-nade. I totally understand that. It's too bad, but it is what it is. But I'd like to see us do something more, maybe, there was one thing that we used to have in there, kind of that jungle thing that was in there that had to be removed. That money can be used to, replace that by putting a new one in. Maybe making some more amenities in that park that, I've always said that park should be our grand showcase. Because a lot of people travel to it.
Yeah, I would like to see some more parking for that sledding hill though. Everybody's parking along the side of the road and it's pretty popular over there, so if we could, on, Sandy Parkway, if we could maybe extend out another lane and just have curbside parking at some point, that'd be, I think, a good investment.
That'd be something our engineer would have to deal with.
Yeah, that perfectly seems to.
Park dedication funds cover that?
That probably used up the
not-
whole fund.
Yeah, right. It's not really park dedication fund money that probably could be used or something like that, I wouldn't think, but it's parking.
It is a new park.
I see what you're saying though, yeah.
Yeah.
But, go ahead there, Jason.
I guess I'm not 100% sure how your park dedication funds could be used, but we could either do just the parallel park, kind of adding a lane, or even find an area where you could do perpendicular parking to make it almost more of a parking lot, if we need to meet a criteria, but, seems reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that, would kind of just fall under, planning for how we use those park funds now that we have them available and are not having them, earmarked for the splash pad. So I think, maybe just a general thing we could put on the list is more of something like that. I think there's gonna be a lot of ideas probably that are park-related things that we talk about tonight, but yeah, I think that's definitely gonna be something that we're gonna have to take a look at and prioritize how we use those funds, so. All
And then
right.
I had a quick question.
Yeah.
How about the sidewalk? If What's the reasoning that it hasn't been put in?
Property owners that have the easement there and stuff are not wanting to have a sidewalk go
Whiskey?
through and.
Yeah, there's one gentleman that, you don't wanna use the word eminent domain, but it could go that way, but I even reached out to the county and I really didn't get 100% answer on that, where we can actually put that sidewalk, because that light pole and phone boxes are in the right of way. And if we had to even do one of these numbers around that area, that might be an alternative. Cause I mean, it's literally 3 blocks, Jason? That isn't completed?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally 3 blocks.
It needs it.
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to say this, I'll be honest, when I used to take care of the car wash in Isani up here on Main Street, at 10 o'clock at night, I could never in my life family imagine that many people walking that late at night, and there is a ton. That's why that sidewalk got completed along Railroad Avenue with the extra lights, because you could never see those people there. And I see a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, walking, even on my street. There's people walking every single day, every type of weather. It's unbelievable the amount. I just, if they use the sidewalk, that's up to their choice. If we have it there, as far as I'm concerned, it takes liability off us. We offered it, you didn't use it, that's not my fault.
Well, I think it's just something that needs to be cleaned up. I mean, it's been meant that way for how many years now, and it's just like, well, why do we have a sidewalk that doesn't go anywhere or stops and, doesn't complete, I mean, it's just that.
It's always a mystery.
Yeah,
There's
right.
another one too between the China House restaurant and the Dairy Queen of that area there. None of that's connected. So you see nurses walking every single day. There are people walking to Dairy Queen. People walking to the new ice cream shop and boutique. That's another one that we got to wait for development on that probably to assess that. But that's one that I see people walking on every single day. Multiple people every single day on Main Street there, and they walk on the street, and I don't like that. But so I think a good look into the sidewalks would be again, this year would be a good goal for sure.
Another thing is too, I even talked to Mr. Sylvester about this, is with some of that park dedicated fund money, could we purchase a decent snowmaking machine? I mean, he's done all kinds of efforts to try to keep costs down on that thing, to make things work. Couldn't we use some of that park dedicated money to go towards that? I mean, the hill's there. Unfortunately, it's good if we haven't had the snowfall like we should. Second of all, the hill faces south, so every time the sun's out, it's hitting it. So it gets wore down, and then once kids get out there and they hit it, where what snow is on there is down, where, they can be making some snow and making some progress. I think it's a great thing. I heard a lot of people rave about it. I just never thought it'd be that popular, and it is. And then we don't have a lot of expense into that snow hill.
No.
So if there was a way that park dedicated money could be used to purchase a snow machine, something that they can actually get out there and use instead of makeshift things. I sent him last year, I think I sent you a deal to make one, and I think you tried, and it just isn't cutting it.
No, okay. Because I was gonna say, I think a few years ago, we talked about like a pressure washer kind of outfitted with some different stuff, and we were trying to find a cheap way to do it, and I don't think it ever worked out, but.
Yeah, we looked at that a couple years ago, and I want to say it was like $7,000 or something like that. You needed a air compressor and pressure washer and certain different nozzles, but it's a thing. People buy them.
Yeah.
People make snow with them.
Because I think I sent him one, I Googled it, and there was a kit that you can make, and it just never panned out. It was not, I don't think you had a lot of cost into it. It just was something that just didn't pan out.
So how much is this snow making machine if you bought it new?
He looked into it, it was about $7,000.
That's not horrible. I mean, depending how long it lasts.
Like I said, as long as you can take it from park dedicated funds.
Right.
I don't see why that would be, it really isn't a big, huge issue at
Right.
that point. As long as you're not budgeting for it, I totally understand that. But, if it can come out of that park dedicated funds, it's going to a good use.
Yeah,
People do use it.
yeah, it gets a ton of use. Okay.
Put a chairlift on it, and I might take my. It's too much work walking up the hill. Huh?
A pull rope.
A tow
Yeah.
rope,
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those, those used to drag you up the hill. But, I mean, those are the kind of things that I think that if that funds, and I mean, Mike would be more one to know if that can come out of there for that. I would assume it would be because it is a park, dedicated park item.
How about, time-wise, is doing stuff like that, is that something that we really want to have our guys out there doing, or is that?
Mayor and council, I don't think you kind of set it up, and then it just does its thing, and then you just go and we would just move it to another spot on the hill, just move it around to where snow is needed.
So not a
Not
huge
much time, just,
deal? Okay,
it was just,
okay,
I think that's a good idea.
yeah. Okay, anything else on, off of that old list there?
The only other one I see on there is the Veterans Memorial from 2021.
Yep.
I've always been a strong person for veterans. To what extent? I mean, you go into Wyoming and they got one sitting there, and it's just basically it's a monument with Veterans Memorial, and they got 3 flags set up by it. I think that's something we should still look into. I think there's a lot of veterans that live in this town that would greatly see that being appreciative to them.
Yeah, and could we do that in Bluebird Park and use the park dedication type stuff for that sort of amenity? I mean, that would be a.
That's
Yeah.
table's decision too. They'll let us know if we could or not.
I think that would be a good place for it, somewhere where it's seen by a lot of people and kids can see it and read it and learn about it, and I think that would be interesting too.
Yeah, I feel like the cost on that, last time we talked about it, I mean, I don't know what we were looking at doing, if
I
it was
don't
gonna be
remember.
something, it was like 100,000 or something like that?
I think what we did
or-
last time is I reached out to a few other cities and asked them how much it costs and how did they acquire that, if it was by the city, by donation, or a separate organization other than the city. I'd have to look through my notes to see exactly what those cost, because it varied a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, you could go big, I think, was it, Foley had statues donated, I could be wrong on the city, but it all depended on, the value was really high, but they were donated, so I don't think the city had invested a lot except for other than give the land to the organization that was putting that together, the memorial together, in front of that government center there.
Can the city do a fundraiser for that?
I mean, the city can accept donations for things,
But I mean, could we run a fundraiser? I mean, you go to a lot of cities and you'll see fundraisers for things, and they're at this goal. I think when you go into Chisago, Lindstrom, you see that. Going to Lindstrom, you see there's a goal that they're setting, and where they change it. And
usually, though, it's maybe in the city hall because it gets a lot of exposure, but it's a separate group, usually a community organization of a nonprofit type that puts those together, because they can actually do fundraising. We have a lot of, quite a few restrictions. We can accept donations, but the city doesn't put on fundraisers.
I'm wondering if that's something we couldn't reach out to Jim Rosberg with Beyond Yellow Ribbon.
So we did reach out to the VFW to ask if they were interested in taking that endeavor on, and at that time, and that was a number of years ago, they were not interested because they had their own kind of setup there, but
I think
things do
that
change and people do change.
that
Yeah,
could be
I don't-
looked
I think
at.
there's
'cause their
different
circumstances have
people over
changed.
there that are
Yeah.
in charge, for sure, yeah, so.
And I mean, I think, I would think that they would want to be part of that. I think if, in reaching out to the VFW, and maybe Yellow Ribbon, Beyond Yellow Ribbon, where, we're not just limited to Isani veterans, City of Isani veterans, it's Isani County veterans. If they can get that push, you might be surprised, there'd be probably a lot more donations if we had an organization like that involved in it to do that. I think we might meet that goal sooner than expected, but I think that's something that we should definitely look at in the coming year.
Yeah.
I agree. Now, the county park system, we did a sort of memorial to Sandhill Cranes in one of our parks, and those are metal sculptures, and I thought those were really cool, and then we just have a sign out there, so I think we paid a metal sculptor like $10,000, and he made big Sandhill Cranes, and we put a sign out there, kind of like a memorial sign for them and telling why they're important for the county and all that stuff, so, I mean, you know, $10,000, that's one example. Now, you could go a million different ways with it. You could go something super extravagant, marble, you could go really anything. I mean, I'm sure there might even be artists in town here that would be willing to help put a sculpture together or something like that, so,
I looked at one of those cement soldiers.
sure.
Was kneeling. I
Yep.
think, what's the name of that hardware store right on 35 in New Brighton? Beiswingers. I looked at one down there. I'd like to have bought one. No. It was like $2,800. I'm like, no, I'm not paying $2,800 for a chunk of concrete. But I mean, something like that, you know, goes a long ways.
Right.
We do have access to ECRAC grants for local artists. If we worked with a local artist, we could potentially get funding from ECRAC to commission somebody to create
That would be cool.
an artistic thing, as long as it's not too historical, because that is not what those funds are for, but it's promoting the artist. But it could be a veteran.
Do we still have that? Do we
artistic.
still have that? They make concrete products. It was all done by Handicapped. That's no longer there?
Industries Incorporated?
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe so.
It's not there anymore, but they moved to Cambridge. They just moved.
They just moved?
Yep.
I mean, I know,
Something like that, they might be able to do something, I don't know.
and there's some metal shops in town too. I mean, maybe there could be a collaboration between a couple metal shops and an artist, or, I mean, I think there's lots of ways that we could spin that. I think, I saw that in the 2021, and I had never remembered hearing about that, but I think it's a good idea.
Oh, it
Yeah.
actually has been discussed for quite a few years.
Is it okay?
Yeah, it's
Money.
it wasn't that much, so much, it's just kind of, it was driven by money, but I think we are enough creative minds up here
Yeah.
to see if we can't, you know, like you said, reach out to the VFW again. Like you've said, that commanding's changed, you know, that beyond the yellow ribbon, which, you know, it's work for them to set up the fundraiser, where Ms. Wood says, you know, we're not really allowed to do a fundraiser of such. So maybe getting them involved to do that, where they could come to the city and donate it, so they don't have to chase up there or whatever, that's all huge. But I would be willing to bet you that there would be quite a few people that would probably donate to it, more so than you would think.
I would think, yeah, probably a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Park dedication funds on that, what do you guys think? I mean, is that something that we could use for that type of a amenity to a park, or?
Mike's gears are shifting, I can see.
Yeah, I think I'd have to reread statute on that.
Okay.
I'm not
It would be a new
convinced,
park
but-
amenity.
Well,
I mean, what do you consider an amenity, though?
I don't know.
That's what it gets to,
Yeah.
is like, what was the intent of the statute, and what counts as an amenity, right? I mean, we could put up a box in Bluebird Park and call it a gaming room and have Xbox and everything else. Well, is that really an amenity? Was that really the intent? You know, some people would maybe argue not, right?
But I mean, it'd be something to look into.
Yeah, I think I'd want to reread and kind of look at that a little more closely, but yeah.
Okay.
I saw another one in 2021, reducing overall budget. Obviously, I think we keep that in there because that's really been a huge goal for, I'd say, all of us to keep cutting where we can. Another one that I had, it might not be super popular, was trying to reduce the PD budget. Sorry, Travis, but I hear a lot of complaints about the PD spending, so I would like to look into that. Just whatever we can. I still think we're replacing vehicles too often personally. So that's a goal for me. I know it's not a popular one, but that was something that I'd thought about quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we want to save that discussion for a little later, but I mean, I think,
It's just a goal.
I mean, we poured over that budget. I mean, I get what you're saying on some of that stuff, but at the same time, like, I mean, what is the most important function that we probably have is, you know, our police, our fire,
No, I
our
don't
public works,
disagree.
keeping our roads in line, and, you know, I mean, that's really the essential functions of what we're doing here, you know, and I don't know, I think, I mean, I looked over it, I don't know that there's anything in there that I would say is wasteful by any means, you know, I mean, I think it's, you know, I mean, are there some things that you wish, didn't cost so much? Yeah, for sure, I mean, that's like everything, but
It's really the squad cars that do it for me.
Squad cars is really what you're-
That's really, I mean, if you can, next year we're get slated to buy 2, the year after 1. I mean, we only have, I just don't understand why we need new vehicles all the time. I get they take wear and tear, obviously, and we've talked about this, but I just hear there's people in the community that want answers on that. I mean, it's, what is it, 40% of the budget is PD?
I think it's more like 56,
Yeah,
isn't
It's
it?
up, it's up there.
It's a
but
lot. I'm not saying they don't do a good job. I think they do a good job, but if we're gonna look at one thing, that's one big thing that I would like to continue looking into. And I know it's not popular,
And
but
costs are increasing on those squad cars and
Yeah,
with
and
any of the state
right.
stuff.
What was, established redevelopment district from last year? I don't remember what that is.
Establishing a redevelopment district, similar to with the CDBG funds that we had discussed applying for, the small cities development funds for the downtown area, as well as highway or County Road 5, so that we could get funding for that redevelopment district.
Which we decided that probably wasn't really something we
Right.
wanted to do with the
Yep.
strings that are attached and all that kind of stuff,
Yes,
so.
correct.
That other one, city-owned land across the river. Where's that at?
That is right on the other side of the bridge. There's a small piece that is owned by the city as it goes down to that little area down to the river.
That
On
landing
the
there?
north side of 5.
Then we can get rid of it?
I think it's worth holding on for now until we decide what we want to do, but we don't own the entire access there. But there is, you know, maybe someday in the future, potential for the city to work with the county or something to offer a
Old
new kind of
landing.
amenity. So I say we hang on to it, doesn't cost us anything, and maybe at some time in the future decide what we could do with it.
Because I just don't see us bringing sewer and water over there.
Never say never, Steve.
Huh. You're gonna put it under the river?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
We're gonna get so large.
yeah. No, I won't be living here then, I guarantee you that.
You might
I
not
mean, I see what you're saying, though, because, I mean, we already have a boat launch there at Martin's Landing, so it's not like we really need, and I've never really been down there on that side of the bridge. Is there a boat launch there? Or it's just like a, kind of an area where people can stand to fish, kind of, and,
Yeah,
Jump
it's
in the
pretty
water.
flat. There's not like.
Yeah.
Depends on the water level.
A concrete
Yeah,
ramp or
right.
anything
There's
down
no
there,
ramp,
but-
I don't see people launch a canoe from there or something,
Yeah.
but other than that, that's it.
Kayaks.
Almost every day, I drive past there every day. Almost every day, somebody is fishing there or
Yeah.
parked there for
Mhm.
a boat. Like, it's very busy.
You can't always get down, depending on the weather, you can't always get down to Martin's Landing, and
yeah.
they
that's true.
really do treat that as a minimum maintenance kind of area. They're not always.
But I've seen
keeping
it
the road-
there where it's flooded up past
Yeah.
where you would have a parking lot even.
Sometimes they shut the gate because of that, and then.
Well,
you can't
at
get down
Martin's
there.
Landing, but I mean, even at the
Oh, yeah.
the land where we own too,
Yep.
I've seen it
Oh.
flooded up past those mounds of dirt and stuff many times, so.
I haven't been down there 50 years, so.
You never drive by there, really?
I drive by, I don't go down there.
Yeah,
It's-
I've never
like
been
I
down
said,
there,
when 50 years ago, I was down there as a kid screwing around, but
Or you're saying at Martin's Landing?
no, the one
Oh,
across
another
the
one?
river.
Yeah.
I go there every couple of years and try and fish. I never catch nothing there, but it's still an interesting little spot. Have we, I'm sure we've looked into like community center improvements over the years. Is there, any sort of plan for that? I don't think I've seen anything in our budget. I know, I think I was talking to a county commissioner, I don't remember who it was, but somebody had asked if there was anything going on with a potential improvement to the community center for more room.
So at this time, we don't have anything in the plan to expand, remodel. We do have pretty much everything in our capital improvement plan, so when it needs to be, you know, when the furnace's longevity has gone out, replace that, repaint the siding. Eventually, it's gonna need new siding. We just recently got a new roof. So we have maintenance items, but currently, staff has not been given any direction to plan for any kind of improvements beyond that.
See, I don't know that there's anything wrong with it. I mean, to me, it's in nice shape. It looks good, and, you know, the piano's kind of old, but we had a birthday party there the other day, so I
Yeah,
got a
mean,
firsthand look,
It's
so.
not bad, but I just had someone ask about it, and I didn't know if we had
Yeah.
any sort of plans to expand it, or I have seen the stuff in the CIP though for it.
Yeah, and for what it is worth, since COVID, that place is packed.
Yeah.
It is not uncommon for Anna to get a call and they say, well, when's your next Sunday or Saturday available? And it's 2, 3, 4 months out.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty common.
So we have kept rates fairly low, and we haven't raised those over the years, but one of the really great attributes that we have at our community center that I think is what attributes to being really busy is that we allow people to bring in their own food. We don't require them to go with certain approved caterers or anything like that, and those places are getting really hard to find. In terms of the piano, that was donated, so it will take council action to ever take the piano out. If you're ever wondering why staff leaves it there, that is why.
I think it's great to have it there, yeah.
Once in
No,
a while,
I-
we do get people
I
to
just was
play
trying
it.
to play it a little bit, and I started trying to learn the piano here a few weeks ago, and, but
Tell 'em
I'm
about
a
your-
Renaissance man, what can I
Tell 'em
say?
about
So-
the other adventure you've been.
Painting, yeah, I started watching a little Bob
Bob
Ross, yeah,
Ross.
so,
Been watching Bob Ross
but-
videos.
but the keys were just kinda dirty, so I don't know if we could, yeah,
We could give it a
maybe get a
good
little cleaning on it, yeah.
cleaning, yeah.
So I think that, you know, what's over on that list from last year's, you know, whatever most of that, a lot of that stuff is kind of already hit on. I mean, whatever isn't done, to carry it on, and whatever we add to it. So,
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a list if we wanna,
Yeah, do you
when we
wanna-
actually get to the list.
Yes, I mean, that was just all the old stuff there, so I mean, anything else you guys wanna follow up on old stuff as far as that? And we can kinda go back to it too if we have something that comes up. And then the next thing was D5, the CIP, kind of the major projects that are listed there. Any questions on some of those things, and, or do you wanna kinda move on and?
So those are the same that was discussed during budget discussions when we approved the budget. This is just kind of a snapshot of the items that are about 5,000 or greater. Just to remind council as we have discussions, what we have kind of in the hopper for this year and the next two.
So I have a question on that, for Matt. The streets, the 04 Chevy 4500, can you tell me more about that? Is that an 8.1 truck, or is that a diesel truck, or I see you, that's scheduled for replacement in 2025?
The 4,500, is that the one you said?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a gas.
okay.
That's a, I think that's an 8-liter gas.
8.1?
It's not four-wheel drive.
Oh, it's not, okay,
No,
okay,
it's two-wheel drive.
okay. Is there anything wrong with that truck that you?
Necessarily, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious because the 04, those trucks, the gas ones are actually really good. They'll go a lot longer than the newer ones that they're making nowadays, so that was the only thing I had a question on in there. I would like to see us keeping that one because I think that's actually a better long-term investment than buying a new one, as long as it's still functioning.
I mean, eventually you're gonna have to replace them. It's an '04. It's
Right.
20 years old. I mean, that's,
Yeah, the 04 GM trucks are really the bread and butter to reliable trucks
Yeah.
versus what you can buy nowadays.
I mean, that's just like anything else. I mean, if we come time to buy it here, and then it's on the budget for this year, I mean, if we decide that we wanna hold off for another year or two, and, you know, we can always make that decision when the time comes,
Yeah,
but.
that's always the tact on that, is
Yep.
if we say, hey, it's in good condition, it serves the purpose, let's keep using it, just slide it back one more year, slide it back one more year, slide it back one more. And so long as, I think, in my experience, so long as department heads know there's light at the end of the tunnel, and when they need it, they'll get it. I've never had a problem with department heads bucking that. As long as they get it when they need it, they're willing to wait. And that's the way to do that, yep.
Rum River Meadows, is that over by me?
Yeah, it's the one on that road, yes.
Yeah, south of South Passage as you cross
Yes.
Whiskey. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know, when my grandkids are here, we take them there all the time, so. I don't think any of that's all that bad.
No, that's one of our newer parks. We did a few years ago add the volleyball net. It's still on grass, so we didn't make the sand pit, but we put that over there. But that is a very well-used park.
The only thing, yeah, trust me, I can tell when they're there. The only thing I got to say, but I don't know how you can solve the problem, is all the wood chips underneath the swings. I mean, I could
Did they
barely,
get kicked out?
yeah, I could barely stand in the hole and get into the swing.
So we do use
Need a
seasonals
booster?
to go around throughout the summer to go rake that back into those divots that get created, but they come right back as the kids.
I don't know if there's anything you can, you know, like on softball fields, they put a mat down.
So we did look into that numerous years ago, and at that time, I don't know if I'd be able to recall the numbers, but at that time, it was discussed to put underneath swings and at the bottom of some of the slides where the kids come out. But the cost of those mats added up quite quickly, but we could collect numbers again if that's of interest.
I mean, it's
but-
not something, you know, it's not like we should go out and do it to everyone today. I mean, we could do that in steps.
That would be a park dedication fund, park reserve
Yep,
fund type
it
stuff.
definitely
Yeah,
would be, but
definitely,
I
yep.
mean, it could be something that, you know, we do, just using that
couple
for
of years.
example, the Rum River Meadows Park, did that this year, did this park next year, Bluebird Park that year, whatever, just down the line, I mean, you know, otherwise we're putting more maintenance guys going over there to raking that stuff back into the holes. And if I'm serious, it's like 4 feet hole to the swing, it's deep.
Kids may be going out there with shovels too, you never know.
I was gonna say, some of the big kids are probably going out there and purposely digging these ditches, yeah.
Yeah, in the summertime, at about 9:30, 9:45, I can still hear the kids screaming over there.
That's a busy park,
And
yeah.
it's getting used, and I see absolutely no, at least they're there, and they're not in the middle of the streets. So like I said, I hear them, but it's, you know, that's just the way it is. I think up to about a week ago, they were still out there every day. So it's not like that thing gets used a lot more than I anticipated. But we took over, the 2 lots, one on each side of it, of where the playground is. So now it's just a field, you know, something that they're mowing out there. I don't know if it's something that we can look in the future to adding some other amenities in that, since we have these 2 lots. And I know why we bought those lots. We bought those lots like dirt cheap, because they were housing lots. But I think we bought them for like $6 grand for the pair of them.
Sounds about right,
Yeah, it was, I mean, for a $20,000 lot, we bought for $3 grand. When we bought those 2 lots. So you know, he's going out there doing a lot of mowing. It might be almost, get a little less mowing for him by putting more amenities there. That park does get used a lot more than I ever expected it would be. And I think that street now, South Passage over there, has gotten more and more younger kids.
So Mayor, if I may interrupt, I'd like to just bring, or just to add on D6, that is our staffing plan, not to be really discussed this evening unless you'd want to. I'd recommend that we do that a different evening.
Okay.
That's all the staff that we have now. I or other departments, we don't have any recommendations to add new staff to this plan for 2024. And then I have X'd out the interns, as that was discussed during budget time, to not fill for 2024. So at this time, I'd like to have Ms. Hillesheim talk about the dynamic signs and get into what we have, because we must have a few, 60 minutes or so remaining. Talk about the dynamic sign and any other items that you want to bring forward for staff to look into, please.
Okay. Yeah, and before we do that, anything else that you guys wanted to discuss on that CIP?
No, I don't mind your idea of maybe bringing, as we put items on this goal setting, if we were to bring in, 1 or 2 items at COW, so we don't keep stretching COW out and further.
Yeah, right.
And I see absolutely nothing wrong with that. I mean, most of these goals are goals to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it might just be nice to kind of have the list in front of us, and, then
Yep.
it's just something we can kind of keep in the back of our minds, so.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, so let's go ahead and move on to just discussion items, and we'll start with Stephanie there.
Okay. Good evening, committee members. Tonight, I'm just going to talk about the different locations that we've discussed in the past for the dynamic sign potentially. And one, first was the one that Councilman Lundin spoke of earlier, where the church, New Hope Church, currently owns and has listed for sale. That property actually has an easement that is available that we're trying to take over right now from the county. It was originally a state of Minnesota right-of-way easement, and it's just a small square in the corner of that, but will it allow for us to have a sign there at that parcel. So we are working on just still getting some of the language worked out with the city attorney. But the county has agreed to give us that.
Which parcel was that exactly? Was that which direction toward from the church?
It's the New Hope Church parcel that they own along Highway 65, so it's just south of the liquor store.
Right across the street from O'Reilly's.
So,
Yes.
yeah, so where you would turn,
Oh, okay.
if you're
okay.
heading north on 65, where you would turn right to go to the
Yeah.
liquor store, it's the south edge of that intersection.
Okay.
So you would see it when you're running northbound.
Yep.
Which is exactly what I.
That'd be
like to see.
ideal for
That
sure.
would be ideal.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that, regardless of who owns that property, we will have the ability to put up a sign at that point as long as it meets all of the requirements set in statute by MnDOT in meeting their requirements. So we'll have to follow those. So there is potential there. And then after a lot of research, we did find the owners of the corner parcel on Highway 65 and County Road 5 or Heritage. The northwest corner, just that small corner, is a different owner than the one who owns the larger parcel. And so they are considering the possibility of selling that parcel to the city to purchase to put a community sign up as well. So there are two potential places for dynamic signs, or they don't have to be dynamic signs for any community sign or a liquor store sign.
So are you saying on that one on 65 that if we get the easement from the county, then we wouldn't actually have to purchase the property? We would just have the ability to use that easement to put the sign up?
Yes.
Okay.
That's ideal.
That is ideal.
And that sounds like that's gonna be something that would likely happen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, the county has already moved it forward at their board meeting.
Okay. So I guess as far as cost goes, I mean, that would be something that I don't know if we've, dug into new numbers recently at all, or?
I guess I don't have any extreme new numbers because depending on what you would like to see in a pylon sign can really vary. That's where the cost can vary a lot, if it's brick or just the pylon sign, or if it's something we can do in-house versus have to hire out. All of that obviously changes the variance. Access to electric, they all can create different costs for the sign specifically, but dynamic signs themselves have come down significantly in cost and are more clear than they used to be before. So it really depends on which angle the city would like to. I guess not having a budget makes it difficult to figure out what the budget should be, I guess. If we could have a direction in that aspect. I know like Princeton spent $30,000 on their sign, but that was a number of years ago. But signs are more affordable now than they went up for a little bit, and now are more affordable, I think. So.
That's the number I was gonna say too, is I feel like when we were having that discussion and we were really digging into it deeply, it was, I mean, you could get by with something a little more simple for that 30,000 range, but that's been years ago now too, so, and I don't know,
So the reader boards themselves are much more affordable, and so you can construct them on signs. It's just really like on whatever background you would like now, and they can have boxes or they can be double-sided. So there's just a lot of variances in a sign. Also the size of that screen and what its capabilities are really changes. Obviously, if you want one like the billboards that have video and stuff, that's going to be far more expensive than ones that show a little bit of a picture and have mostly words. Regardless of all of that, we still have to follow MnDOT's rules for timing of the sign, how often it can flip over, whether or not it can have things moving on the sign. So my advice would be that we choose something that's not as dynamic as those billboards and something that can get the point across to.
I think just words. I don't think we need to have any kind of video or anything, but.
I think it'd be helpful to have a starting point. If council had just a ballpark of a dollar amount, then staff can do some more research and come back and say, well, for that amount of money, here's what we found as options. We can do something with like real block and a smaller sign. We can do faux block with a bigger sign.
As far as funding for that, I mean, that was something I think we were gonna pull from from the liquor store, because we thought we could justify using, part of that for advertising for the liquor store, and then also some of it, I don't remember where we specifically we're gonna take that other part of it from, but.
So, real quick to add on to this, don't forget, running electrical is not gonna be cheap.
No.
That's gonna be a solid 10 grand plus.
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind. But otherwise, the thought was roughly 50-50 split from liquor and from Fund 920. So that, and what I have communicated to Josie and to Keith over at the liquor store was if we want to post, you know, city council meetings or, you know, park events or things like that, I'm okay with that, but please don't touch from about 10 a.m., noon on Friday, all the way through Sunday or Saturday night. Like, I would like that to be liquor store advertising. I want northbound traffic. I want people in our views and ice castles to see that and to stop once, like it, and come again. And that's the time I need to get them.
I would
I
think
think you
that,
could have other community stuff on during those days. You just maybe would not have as much, so then the liquor flipped a little more often.
Agreed.
I think if that location is the location, or even if it was up here on Heritage and 65, I think a double-sided is huge. Because you're gonna see it from both ways. I don't know how you just do one side and the other side's blank. You know, I mean, it would have to be a double-sided sign. Plain and simple. I think lettering, or if you had to have something on there showing a whiskey glass or a bottle or something, very limited video or pictures of that thing, but I think more bang for our buck is lettering.
Yeah, I think that would be as far as the look of the sign, I mean, I'm not so concerned that it looked like block, and I know there's certain.
Sometimes you can have like a flag waving or do different things like that that may promote like the holidays. The city logo can go on there. So it's not, we don't need something that's showing a video, but just letting you know there's a huge variance in the kinds of dynamic signs now. It's not just the words going across.
What I liked when I used to drive through like Elk River, they had that big sign that just said beer. And as a family, we kind of use that as a landmark. So, I mean, would it be possible to have a big sign that says beer on the top with a smaller rolling bottom thing? Because then the beer is always there and you can still advertise on the bottom. Because I know when I used to tell like family how to go somewhere, I'd say, turn right at the beer sign. You know, so that might be something that.
I grew up in that area.
Yeah.
That sign disappeared. That sign disappeared solid 20 years ago.
Has it been that long?
That is still how everybody refers to 241 and 169.
See, it works. It's
My
memorable.
sister
too.
lives at that
You gotta take
intersection.
241 to head and say, well, where is that? Where the beer sign was. They know. And that's all it was, black and white beer.
You make
That's
it a landmark,
was,
and that sells. You know,
it was the greatest sign anyone has ever made.
It is.
It just was.
Would you add an arrow to it?
You could. Because I
I
mean,
would-
that wouldn't be dynamic, but that would always be there, and then you could have the roller underneath with the dynamic stuff on it. And I wouldn't think the actual beer stuff. I'm sure that's probably 10 grand, but that would be kind of a landmark. And
Yeah, I mean, I see it as, for me, it's more important to me that it's a liquor store sign.
think so,
More
too.
than a community.
would it be nice to have a
information board,
combination
yeah.
one like that?
But I think you're right, yeah, I mean, if you could have something that was just kind of a solid state that, you know, said, hey, this is where the liquor store is, and then also could get some of the information out there about community stuff, then, you know, why not? So yeah, I don't know if that gives you a great direction. It sounds like there's lots of different areas to
Well,
choose from, but
I
It
think
would
if
be nice to
yeah.
know some sort of budget and to keep in mind that we do have 2 potential affordable locations. So even if we're considering maybe the beer sign going by the liquor store to take a right and then a community sign that we can still advertise on at the major intersection within our community would be
the
something
only
to
thing is if
consider as
you
well.
have to purchase that property, that's just takes away from the sign itself then. If it's gonna be something like a 50-50 split, I mean, they're looking at a dollar amount, you know, what you feel for the city's portion of that investment. That 10 grand, if it's gonna be 10 grand to get power to it, that's a one-time thing.
well, I think we have 10 grand set aside already right now that we saved for the purpose of acquiring property if we needed it for that, right?
Yeah,
So-
that's 2023 money, but I mean, either way,
Yeah.
I mean, for the margins that we're talking about in Fund 920 and 609, we just come to council and just say, do it. It's not in there for 2024.
Not the end of the
We
world.
could just
one way
pull
or
the
another,
trigger.
yeah.
That's not breaking anything.
I guess in my opinion, your payback on a sign is a direct result of what you spend.
Yeah,
So
I think
it's
if we
kinda
did a
like-
good sign, then hopefully
Yeah.
it draws more traffic to the liquor store and
You
hopefully
know,
it pays for
if you
itself,
ask-
right?
If you ask me at this point, let's put a parameter of, to me, if it's gonna be a 50-50 split, it's gonna be 50 grand out of the cities and 50 grand out of the liquor store. I'd say $100,000. Let's see where we go from there. We can always come down from that. I just think we need to set an example to a point to start.
I was thinking like 20 to 100, just to give us a range of what we can get for 20 grand versus what you might be able to get for 100. In my opinion, I think that's a reasonable.
You could do $25,000 increments. 25,000, 50, 7,500.
It'd be
50
interesting
was, 50 was kind of the number I had in
Yeah.
mind,
Okay.
but,
But if we
But
give
that'd
them a
still be
range,
50
yeah, I
from the
mean, I'm-
city's portion of it, and it'd be 50 from.
well, I mean, I was thinking like total, but
but if we have a range, we can kind of look at what that gets
Yeah, I
us, and then
mean-
we can decide as a,
50 to 100,000 range is kind of, I don't know, I mean,
yeah.
is that, I mean, we can
That's
always, yeah, I
doable.
mean, it's not like we're making a decision, we're just shopping, so.
I think that's possible for me to find a few in that range,
And I
so.
still like the idea of Mr. Merrill's sign stationary on the top. Didn't even have to say beer, it could just say liquor.
Is there a way to make it exactly like the one you guys remember?
Oh, I could absolutely replicate
Yeah, I
that.
remember it vividly.
I honestly-
I can't believe it's
Yeah,
been
we
gone
all
that
know.
long.
Honestly, all the other staff in the room have heard me say this. It was the greatest marketing gimmick
It was.
of all time. I can't tell you how many thousands of people used that as their marker.
I was
mean,
10
it was,
years old when
it
that
was
went
insane.
down, and I still remember it.
It was insane.
Like,
Yeah.
how big was it?
It wasn't even, I mean,
You know, like in actuality, it was probably, 4 feet wide, 2.5 feet tall, but it sat up high, really high on a pylon, so it looked a little smaller than it was. But it wasn't overly enormous.
it
You
would
know,
be up to code, so, but it just beer, it's so simple,
That's
it
all it
catches
said.
your eye.
Black and white, that was it.
Mhm.
And it was,
All right, well, do we want to maybe just recess this discussion, and we'll come back and just kind of have the thoughts from the council and stuff after the council meeting, and,
So,
what do you guys think?
did we say like 50 to 100 range on that?
Uh,
Roughly, just to see, get some
yeah,
ballpark ideas?
I mean, Jeff, what did you think?
I'd do $25,000 increments.
Okay.
What do you get for
25,
25?
50,
Yeah.
75, 100?
I think that's a good plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try to kind of see what's out there for 25-ish and 50 or so and 75, and, then we can kind of do some thinking on it. But yeah, I don't want to spend a ton of money on it. I've never been a fan of sending a fortune. I don't know. But I don't have a problem with taking a little time to look into it again. All right, so I'll take a motion to table this meeting, I guess, is what.
I'll make a
or
motion to table.
Second.
Or a recess, is what we're really doing?
Recess.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll use the word recess then.
okay.
Second.
I've got a motion to recess this meeting until after the city council meeting from Councilman Lundin and a second from Councilman Merrill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.